What's up, everyone, and welcome to this week's Cybersecurity Weekly, where we review the security events that happened in the last week. As always, I have broken them down into the individual stories in the timeline, so feel free to jump around as you see fit. If you find my work valuable, of course, I ask you to hit the like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe.
Oh, drat these computers. They're so naughty and so complex. I could pinch them.
We start off with patches. Cisco released security patches to address a critical privilege escalation vulnerability tracked as CVE 2022-20658 in Unified Contact Center Management Portal, or Unified CCMP, and Unified Contact Central Domain Manager, CCDM. A remote attacker could exploit the flaw to elevate privileges to administrator. The vulnerability resides in the web-based management interface of the Cisco Unified CCMP and Cisco Unified CCDM products. The CVE 2022-20658 received a CVSS score of 9.6. The flaw is caused by the lack of server-side validation of a user permissions. An attacker can trigger the flaw by sending a crafted HTTP request to a vulnerable system. The flaw could be only exploited by an attacker that has valid advanced user credentials. The vulnerability was addressed with the release of Unified CCMP and Unified CCDM versions 11.6.1 ES17, 12.0.1 ES5, and 12.5.1 ES5. Version 12.6.1 is not affected. Mozilla released Firefox 96 that addressed 18 security vulnerabilities in its web browser and the Thunderbird mail program. 9 vulnerabilities addressed by the new release are rated high severity. The most severe one is a race condition tracked as CVE 2022-22746. A race condition could have allowed bypassing the full screen notification, which could have led to a full screen Windows spoof being unnoticed, reads the advisory published by Mozilla. The vulnerability only impacts Firefox for Windows operating systems. An attacker can exploit the vulnerability to bypass the full screen notification on Windows machines. Another important issue fixed by Mozilla is a full screen spoof in the Firefox browser window tracked as CVE 2022-22743. The vulnerability can allow an attacker controlled tab to prevent the browser from leaving full screen mode when the user navigates from inside an iframe. Another issue fixed by the organization is a bug that prevents a pop-up window from leaving full screen mode when resizing the pop-up while setting full screen mode. Another issue fixed by Mozilla is an out-of-bounds memory access leading to a potentially exploitable crash. The flaw has been tracked as CVE 2022-22742. The above vulnerabilities were discovered by researcher Irvin Kernewan. Now, Firefox 96 also addressed a heap buffer overflow tracked as CVE 2022-22738. Applying a CSS filter effect could have accessed out-of-bounds memory, which could lead to a heap buffer overflow causing a potentially exploitable crash. Other high-risk flaws fixed with the latest Firefox release include 2 use-after-free flaws tracked to CVE 2022-22740 and CVE 2022-22737, respectively, and an iframe sandbox bypass using XSLT tracked as CVE 2021-4140. The organization fixed 6 medium-severity issues in Firefox, including a sandbox escape and the lack of URL restrictions when scanning QR codes in Firefox for Android. The open-source organization also fixed a series of memory safety bugs fixed in Firefox 96 and Firefox ESR 91.5 and Thunderbird 91.5. Adobe patches for January addressed 41 vulnerabilities in Windows and Mac OS versions of Acrobat and Reader products, Illustrator, Adobe Bridge, InCopy, and InDesign. 22 of these vulnerabilities reported through the CDI program. The software giant fixed a total of 26 flaws in Acrobat and Reader. The most severe ones are remote code execution that were demonstrated at the Tianfu Cup. An attacker can exploit these vulnerabilities by tricking the victim into opening a specially crafted PDF. The 4 critical vulnerabilities that were demonstrated at the Chinese Tianfu Cup hacking contest are CVE 2021-44704, 44705, 44706, and 44707 with CVS base scores of 7.8. The white hat hackers that demonstrated the issues in the Reader product earned a total of $150,000. Other flaws in Acrobat and Reader can be exploited by attackers for privilege escalation, bypassing security features, triggering a DOS condition, and retrieving data from memory. Adobe released security updates for InCopy that addressed 3 critical rated RCE flaws, or remote code execution flaws, and 1 important rated privilege escalation issue. The updates for InDesign fixes 2 critical rated out-of-bounds write flaws that could be exploited to execute arbitrary code on vulnerable systems, and a moderate use-after-free privilege escalation. The update for Bridge addresses 6 flaws. One of them, in OOB write, or out-of-bounds write, is rated as critical. The company also fixed 2 out-of-bounds read bugs in Illustrator. Microsoft Patch Tuesday security updates for January 2022 patched 96 vulnerabilities in Microsoft Windows and Windows components, Microsoft Edge or Chromium-based Edge, the Exchange server, Microsoft Office and Office components, SharePoint server, .NET Framework, Microsoft Dynamics open source software, Windows Hyper-V, Windows Defender, and Windows Remote Desktop Protocol. One of the most severe vulnerabilities is a remote code execution issue tracked as CVE 2022-21840. It affects Microsoft Office. A remote attacker can exploit this flaw to execute arbitrary code on vulnerable systems. In an attack scenario described by Microsoft, an attacker can exploit the vulnerability by sending the specially crafted file to the user and tricking him into opening the file. This flaw has been rated as critical because of the lack of warning dialogues when opening the crafted file. Experts pointed out that at this time, Microsoft has yet to release a patch for Office 2019 for Mac and Microsoft Office LTSC for Mac 2021. The IT giant states that the updates will be released as soon as possible. Exploitation of the vulnerability requires that a user open a specially crafted file. In an email attack scenario, an attacker could exploit the vulnerability by sending the specially crafted file to the user and convincing the user to open it. In a web-based attack scenario, the attacker could host a website or leverage a compromised website that accepts or hosts user-provided content containing a specially crafted file designed to exploit the vulnerability, states the security advisory published by Microsoft. The advisory states that the Windows Explorer preview pane cannot be used as an attack vector to exploit this vulnerability. Microsoft Patch Tuesday security updates also address a wormable HTTP protocol stack remote code execution vulnerability tracked as CVE 2022-21907. The WordPress 5.8.3 security release addresses 4 vulnerabilities affecting versions between 3.7 and 5.8. It is labeled as a short cycle security release. The organization announced that the next major release will be version 5.9, which is already in a release candidate stage. 2 of the vulnerabilities addressed with this release are SQL injection issues. A first vulnerability resides in the WordPress query and was reported by NGO-CNB and Kyoyen from Gianhang Tietkiem JSC through Trend Micro Zero Day Initiative. The second vulnerability affects WordPress meta query and was discovered by Ben Bittner of the WordPress security team. It is only relevant to versions 4.1 to 5.8. The third vulnerability is a stored cross-site scripting through post slugs that was discovered by Karen L. Origami and Simon Scanal from Sonar Source. The fourth vulnerability is an object injection in some multi-site installations that was reported by Simon Scanal of Sonar Source. All of the vulnerabilities were privately reported to WordPress, giving the security team time to address them before they could be exploited to compromise WordPress websites. We move on to attacks, vulnerabilities, and updates. NFT and DeFi platforms are privileged targets for cybercriminals, and the NFT platform Lympo was the last platform in order of time to suffer a security breach. Lympo is building a sports NFTs ecosystem, including NFTs with IP rights of world-famous athletes and clubs. The ecosystem will also include custom sports characters created by various artists and sports influencers. Threat actors stole $18.7 million from several hot wallets of the platform. In response to the security breach, Lympo enhanced safeguards to prevent theft of other LMT. The company also temporarily removed LMT from various liquidity pools in order to minimize the impact of the attack. The stolen tokens were sent to a single address used by the attackers to swap them for Ether on SushiSwap or Uniswap. Then they were sent to other addresses. Lympo's parent company, Animoca, announced that it will support its subsidiary to face with consequences of the attack. Threat actors have defaced multiple websites of the Ukrainian government on the night between January 13th and January 14th. The attacks were launched after talks between Ukrainian, US, and Russian officials hit a dead end on Thursday. The attackers deleted the content of multiple websites, including the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Education and Science, Ministry of Defense, the State Emergency Service, and the Cabinet of Ministers. The Ukrainian government is investigating the attack, but intelligence experts speculate the offensive was launched by Russia-linked actors. The Ukrainian government has yet to officially attribute the attacks to any nation-state actor. According to journalist Kim Zetter, attackers apparently exploited a vulnerability in the October CMS tracked as CVE 2021-32648, a news later confirmed by the National CERT. Hensoldt, a multinational defense contractor, confirmed that some of its UK subsidiary systems were infected with Lorenz ransomware. This week, a Hensoldt spokesperson confirmed the security breach to Bleeping Computer, explaining that a small number of mobile devices in its UK subsidiary has been affected. The Lorenz ransomware gang has been active since April and hit multiple organizations worldwide, demanding hundreds of thousands of dollars in ransoms from the victims. Like other ransomware gangs, Lorenz operators also implement double extortion models to steal or by stealing data before encrypting it and threatening them if the victim doesn't pay the ransom. Ransom demands have been quite high, between $500,000 and $700,000. The defense multinational developers Sensor Solutions for defense, aerospace, and security applications is listed on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Its revenue was 1.2 billion euros in 2020. The company has classified the sensitive contracts with the U.S. government. Its products include the equipped tanks, helicopter platforms, submarines, literal combat ships, among others. The Lorenz ransomware gang has already added the company name of the compromised organizations to its Tor leak site. The gang labeled the archive file as paid. This means that the Hensoldt or someone else is paid to avoid the files being leaked. The North Korea-linked APT group BlueNoroff has been spotted targeting cryptocurrency startups with fake MetaMask browser extensions. The nation-state actor is considered a group that operates under the control of the notorious North Korean-linked Lazarus APT group. The latest string of attacks targeted cybercurrency startups in US, Russia, China, India, the UK, Ukraine, Poland, Czech Republic, UAE, Singapore, Estonia, Vietnam, Malta, Germany, and Hong Kong. BlueNoroff shifted focus from attacks against the banks and Swift-connected servers to cryptocurrency businesses. The researchers also spotted the attackers building fake cryptocurrency software development companies in order to trick victims into installing legitimate-looking applications that eventually receive Trojanized updates. Kaspersky published a report that details the recent operations conducted by the app group since November 2021. BlueNoroff attempts to get in contact with specific people in target organizations that are identified through precise reconnaissance. In an attack scenario described by Kaspersky, the attackers sent to the victims a notification of a shared document via Google Drive from one colleague friend to another. The attackers in some attacks compromised the LinkedIn account of an employee within an organization and used it to share the link to a weaponized document on the platform. The app group said, or used a tiny X image to track their campaigns. They used the third-party tracking service SendGrid to be notified when the victim opens the sent document. Kaspersky shared a list of company names that have been impersonated by the attackers, such as CoinSquad, CoinBig, Henri, and ABS Ventures. The researchers are not aware of compromise of these companies. The analysis of the bait documents used in the attacks revealed that threat actors exploited a remote template injection vulnerability tracked to CVE 2017-0199. Another attack chain used by the app group relies on sending an archive that contains a password-protected document, or Excel, Word, or PDF, and a shortcut file disguised as a text file containing the document's password. The multi-stage infection process ends with the release of the backdoor that supports the following functionalities: directory and file manipulation, process manipulation, registry manipulation, executing commands, updating configuration, stealing stored data from Chrome, PuTTY, and WinSCP. The attackers use the malware BlueNoroffs to steal user credentials, make lateral movement, and compromise the larger number of systems as possible in the victim's network. In some cases, The attackers carefully monitored for weeks the user and data flow within the target network while planning a strategy for financial theft, especially for prominent targets. Kaspersky highlighted that the high skills of BlueNoroff group that was able to tamper with the MetaMask Chrome extension by analyzing 170,000 lines of code. Threat actors can leverage a weakness in Microsoft Defender antivirus to determine in which folders plant malware to avoid the antivirus scanning. Microsoft Defender allows users to exclude locations on their machines that should be excluded from scanning by the security solution. The knowledge of the list of scanning exceptions allows attackers to know where to store their malicious code to avoid detection. This means that once inside a compromised network, threat actors can decide where to store their malicious tools and malware without being detected. The issue seems to affect Windows 10 21H1 and Windows 10 21H2 since at least 8 years, but it does not affect Windows 11. Sentinel-1 threat researcher Antonio Kokomazzi pointed out that the list of scanning exceptions can be accessed by any local user regardless of its permissions. The security researcher Nathan McNulty highlighted that when Microsoft Defender is installed on a server, there are automatic exclusions that are set up when specific roles or features are installed. Microsoft has yet to address the weakness. For this reason, administrators should use group policy to configure Microsoft Defender while installing their systems, exclusions on servers and local machines via group policies. Threat actors are actively exploiting public cloud services from Amazon and Microsoft to spread rats such as Natacore, Netwire, and AsyncRat used to steal sensitive information from compromised systems. The malware campaign was spotted by Cisco Talos in October 2021. Most of the victims were located in the United States, Italy, and Singapore. Threat actors leverage cloud services like Azure and AWS because they can be easily set up with minimal efforts, making it more difficult for defenders to detect and mitigate the campaigns. The attackers used complex obfuscation techniques in the downloader script. The attack chains start with a phishing email using a malicious zip attachment that contained an ISO image with a loader in the form of a JavaScript, a Windows batch file, or Visual Basic script. Upon execution, the initial script, the victim's machine download the next stage on the victim's machine. They download the next stage from the command and control server, which can be hosted on an Azure cloud-based Windows server or an AWS EC2 instance. Once installed, the malware on the target system, it can be used to steal confidential data or to deliver additional payloads such as ransomware attacks. Threat actors can also sell the access to other cybercrime gangs, including ransomware affiliates. Organizations should deploy comprehensive multi-layered security controls to detect similar threats and safeguard their assets. Defenders should monitor traffic to their organization and implement robust rules around the script execution policies on their endpoints. It is even more important for organizations to improve email security to detect and mitigate malicious email messages and break the infection chain as early as possible, concluded the report that also includes indicators of compromise. USCYBERCOM has officially linked the Iran-linked MuddyWater APT group, aka Seedworm and Temp Zagros, to Iran's Ministry of Intelligence and Security, or MOIS. The first MuddyWater campaign was observed in late 2017 when targeted entities in the Middle East. The experts called the campaign Muddy Water due to the confusion in attributing a wave of attacks that took place between February and October 2017 targeting entities in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Israel, United Arab Emirates, Georgia, India, Pakistan, Turkey, and the United States to date. The group evolved over the years by adding new attack techniques to its arsenal. Across the years, the app group also has targeted European and North American nations. The group's victims are mainly in the telecommunications, government IT services, and oil sectors. MOIS is the primary intelligence agency of the Islamic Republic of Iran and a member of the Iran intelligence community. It is also known as Vaja and previously as Vivak or Vezaret et Atelier at Va Amniat e Kashva, or alternatively MOIS. MuddyWater is a subordinate element within the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence and Security. According to the Congressional Research Service, the MOIS conducts domestic surveillance to identify regime opponents. It also surveils anti-regime activists abroad through its network of agents placed in Iran's embassies. USCYBERCOM uploaded new samples belonging to the group to VirusTotal, along with JavaScript files used to establish connections back to attackers' infrastructure. These samples included multiple variants of PowGoop loader, JavaScripts deployed using the PowGoop and a Mori backdoor sample. Researchers from Sentinel-1 analyzed some tools in the arsenal of the group that were also shared by the USCYBERCOM. The researchers discovered an interesting subset of activity targeting exchange servers of high-profile organizations. The subset of exchange exploitation activity is interesting because it is difficult to attribute it to MuddyWater due to the use of publicly available offensive security tools. The attackers attempt to exploit exchange servers using two different tools: a publicly available script for exploiting CVE 2020-0688 ruler, and an open source exchange exploitation framework, which is Ruler. Security experts from Intezer discovered a new backdoor, dubbed SysJoker, that is able to infect Windows, Mac OS, and Linux systems. The experts spotted a Linux variant of the backdoor in December while investigating an attack against an educational institution. Later, the experts identified Mac and Windows PE versions of the malware. They pointed out that the Linux and Mac versions are fully undetected in VirusTotal. The analysis of the command and control domain, registration, and samples found in VirusTotal suggests that the SysJoker has been active at least since the second half of 2021. SysJoker masquerades as a system update. Experts believe that it was developed to infect specific targets. The backdoor was uploaded to VirusTotal with the suffix.ts, which is used for TypeScript files. Experts believe that a possible attack vector is via an infected npm package. The command and control server is generated by decoding a string fetched from a text file on Google Drive. The behavior of SysJoker is similar to all the three operating systems. It gathers information about the machine using living off the land commands. Based on instructions received from the command and control server, SysJoker implements multiple capabilities such as executing commands, dropping and running additional payloads. The analysis of the instruction names revealed that the malware also supports commands apparently related to a self-deletion mechanism that has yet to be implemented. Cybersecurity researchers from SentinelOne have discovered a critical vulnerability, CVE 2021-45608, in KCodes NetUSB component that is present in millions of end-user routers from different vendors, including Netgear, TP-Link, Tenda, Editmax, D-Link, and Western Digital. NetUSB is a product developed by KCodes to allow remote devices in a network to interact with USB devices connected to the router. Users could interact with a printer or hard drive plugged into a router via network using a driver on their computer that allows communication with the network device. A flaw is a buffer overflow vulnerability that can be exploited by remote attackers to execute code in the kernel and carry out malicious activities. According to the report published by SentinelOne, a threat actor could send crafted commands to internet-connected routers on port 20005. The vulnerability was discovered by SentinelOne researcher Max von Amerangen, who explained that the issue is not easy to exploit. Exploiting this issue, the good news is that SentinelOne is not aware of any active exploitation attempts for CVE 2021-45388. SentinelOne reported the issue to KCodes, and in October, the company released security updates to address this flaw. U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, and the National Security Agency, NSA, issued a joint alert to warn critical infrastructure operators about threats from Russian state-sponsored hackers. The alert provides information about tactics, techniques, and procedures, aka TTPs, associated with Russia-linked threat actors, along with recommendations on incident response and mitigations. Russia-linked cyber espionage groups have used common tactics such as spear phishing and brute force attacks. The threat actors also exploited known vulnerabilities to compromise target networks and accounts. The alert remarks that Russian nation-state actors have demonstrated sophisticated tradecraft and cyber capabilities by compromising third-party infrastructure, compromising third-party software, or developing custom malware. Target networks and accounts include CVE 2018-1337 or FortiGate VPNs, Cisco routers, Oracle WebLogic servers, Kibana, Zimbra software, Exim Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, Pulse Secure, Citrix, Microsoft Exchange, VMware, F5 Big IP, Oracle WebLogic, Microsoft Exchange again, and in conjunction with CVE 2021-268537, 2021-26585, 2021-27065. Fortinet researchers have spotted a new version of the Red Line info stealer that is spreading via emails using a fake COVID-19 Omicron stat counter app as a lure. The Red Line malware allows operators to steal several types of information, including credentials, credit card data, cookies, autocomplete information stored in browsers, cryptocurrency wallets, credentials stored in VPN clients, and FTP clients. The malicious code can also act as a first-stage malware. Stolen data are stored in an archive before being uploaded to a server under the control of the attackers. The new variant, discovered by Fortinet, has the file name omicron.stats.exe. Threat actors are attempting to exploit the enormous interest in global scale on the COVID-19 Omicron variant. According to FortiGuard Labs, potential victims of this Redline Stealer variant are located in at least 12 countries, a circumstance that suggests attackers did not target specific organizations or individuals. Like other COVID-19 themed mall spam campaigns, the infection chain starts by opening a weaponized document used as an attachment. Upon executing the Omicron stats.exe, it unpacks resources encrypted with triple DES using cipher mode ECB and padding mode PKC7 S7. Then the unpacked resources are injected into vbc.exe and a scheduled task is created to establish persistence. The new variant implements several new features. It is able to steal more information from the victim's Windows management infrastructure instrumentation, and where do I get infrastructure from, such as graphics card name, BIOS manufacturer, identification code, serial number, release date, and version, disk drive manufacturer, model, total heads and signature, processor, CPU information like unique ID, process ID, manufacturer name, max clock speed, motherboard information. The new Redline variant searches for the following strings to locate relevant folders for data exfiltration: wallet.dat, wallet, login data, web data, cookies, Opera GX stable, Opera GX. The malware also looks for Telegram folders to locate images and conversation histories to steal. It also focuses on tokens.txt, which is used for Discord access. Iran-linked F-35 cyber espionage group, aka Charming Kitten or Phosphorus, has been observed leveraging the Log4Shell flaw to drop a new PowerShell backdoor, Checkpoint researchers states. The experts also detail the use of a modular PowerShell-based framework dubbed Charm Power that allows attackers to establish persistence, gather information, and execute commands. F-35 Group started attempting to leverage the Log4j flaw in publicly facing systems only 4 days after the public disclosure of the vulnerability. The nation-state group used one of the publicly available open-source JNDI exploit kits to exploit the Log4Shell vulnerability. The kit used by the attackers was then removed from GitHub due to its popularity following the alert of its abuses. To exploit the flaw, the attackers send a crafted request to the target's publicly facing resource. Then a malicious Java class is retrieved from the attacker's server and executed on a vulnerable machine. The class runs a PowerShell command with a base64 encoded payload that handles communications with the command and control server and eventually receives and executes additional payloads. The main module performs the following operations. It validates network connection. Upon execution, the script waits for an active internet connection by making HTTP post requests to google.com with the parameter. Basic system enumeration. The script collects the Windows OS version, computer name, and the context of a file. It retrieves command and control domain. The malware decodes the command and control domain retrieved from the hard-coded URL, and it retrieves, decrypts, and executions of follow-up modules. The command and control server, in turn, can respond by sending a no-com, or no command, which causes the script to keep sending post requests, or with a base64 string, which is the module to execute. The modules downloaded by the main component are either PowerShell scripts or C# code. Once data gathering is complete, the malware starts communication with the command and control server to periodically send HTTP requests to the URL on the received domain. The Night Sky ransomware operation started exploiting the Log4Shell flaw, CV 2021-44228, in the Log4j library to gain access to VMware Horizon systems. The ransomware gang started its operations on December 27, 2021, and has already hacked the corporate networks of 2 organizations from Bangladesh and Japan, respectively. The gang has also set up a leak site on the Tor network where it will publish files stolen by the victims, or from the victims, that will not pay the ransom. Researchers from Malware Hunter team first spotted the ransomware family. Once a file is encrypted, ransomware appends a .nightsky extension to the encrypted file names. In early January, threat actors started targeting VMware Horizon systems exposed to the internet. VMware has addressed Log4Shell in Horizon with the release of 2111, 7.13.1, 7.10.3 versions, but unfortunately, many unpatched systems are still exposed on the internet. On Monday, Microsoft posted a warning about a new campaign from a China-based actor. It tracks as Dev0401 to exploit the Log4Shell vulnerability on VMware Horizon systems exposed on the internet and deploy Night Sky ransomware. According to Microsoft, the ransomware operators compromised the exposed systems to deploy the Night Sky ransomware. The Dev0401 operators have also deployed multiple ransomware families in the past, including Lockfile and AdamSilo. According to Microsoft, Night Sky ransomware operators employed command and control servers that impersonate domains used by legitimate companies such as cybersecurity firms, Trend Micro, Sophos, and IT firms such as NVIDIA and Rogers Corporation. In the last weeks, other ransomware gangs exploited the Log4Shell in their attacks. The Conti ransomware gang was the first group that exploited the CVE 2021-44228 flaw since mid-December. In the same period, Bitdefender researchers discovered that threat actors were attempting to exploit the Log4Shell vulnerability to deliver the new Consari ransomware on Windows machines. Avos Locker expands its targets by implementing the support for encrypting Linux systems, specifically VMware ESXi servers, Bleepy Computer reported. While we couldn't find what targets were attacked using this Avos Locker ransomware Linux variant, Bleepy Computer knows of at least one victim that got hit with a $1 million ransom demand, reported Bleepy Computer. Security researcher Wall Hunter team confirmed that the ransomware gang is using the Linux encryptor since November 2021. Other ransomware operators supporting Linux and ESXi servers are RansomX or Defray, Mespionoza, HelloKitty, and Babuk. Linux-based versions of popular ransomware allow gangs to target a broad range of organizations, especially those using ESXi servers. Avos Locker operators already advertised in the past a Linux variant, dubbed Avos Linux, of their malware, claiming it was able to support Linux and ESXi servers. According to Bleepy Computer, upon execution, Avos Linux terminates all ESXi machines on the server that it starts encrypting files. The Avos Locker ransomware appends the .avos Linux extension to the file names of the all encrypted files, then drops ransomware notes in each folder containing the encrypted files. A growing number of EA Sports FIFA 22 players reported that their EA accounts were hacked, including famous streamers such as Jamie Bateson, aka Bateson87, Nick RTFM, Trimax, Tissy Subek, and FootFG. Attackers also stole coins and players from the foot clubs of the gamers. In recent days, FIFA 22's trading community is also being targeted by attackers that hacked some of the game's most successful traders, including Noah HDI, Foot Donkey, Jao Celerio, and Narco Insef Wall. According to the media, threat actors were able to obtain the players' game tags, or PSN IDs, then contacted the EA help via live chat, claiming that they have been locked out of their account and asked the support to change the email address associated with their account. The above social engineering attack could be successful only when the EA help operators are deceived by the hackers and don't ask for additional verification. Upon accessing the victim's accounts, attackers have access to sensitive personal information, and this information can be abused in future attacks. According to The Mirror, EA will likely work with high-profile streamers to restore their accounts, but pointed out that a large number of FIFA 22 players is claiming that they were hacked and are facing problems in regaining the control of their accounts. Experts link to infrastructure used by the Abcbot distributed denial of service attack botnet to the operations of a cryptocurrency mining botnet that was uncovered in December 2020. In November, researchers from Keyhole 360's NetLab security team have spotted a new botnet tracked as ABCbot that targets Linux systems to launch distributed denial-of-service attacks. In December, Cato security experts found a new version of the malicious shell script targeting insecure cloud instances running under the above Chinese cloud hosting providers. The list of targeted providers includes Alibaba Cloud, Baidu, Tencent, and Huawei Cloud. The security firm analyzed a total of 6 versions of the botnet since November. An early version of the bot was initially documented in October by Trend Micro researchers. The name ABCbot used to track the bot comes from the source path ABC Hello. Cato security researchers continue to analyze the botnet, attempting to link its indicators of compromise to past malicious campaigns. The investigation revealed a clear link to a cryptocurrency mining botnet dubbed Xanthe that propagates by exploiting incorrectly configured Docker implementations. The Xanthe botnet was first analyzed by researchers from Cisco Talos in December 2020. Experts believe that there is the same threat actor behind both Xanthe and ABCbot, and it is shifting its objective from mining cryptocurrency on compromised hosts to DDoS attacks. Experts observed semantic overlaps between the two bots, which include the format of the source code, naming convention for the routines, the presence of the word go appended to the end of the function names, e.g., file run go. Experts also noticed that ABCbot includes code used to add 4 malicious users to the compromised machine: logger, sysall, system, and auto updater. An India-linked threat actor, tracked as Patchwork, aka Dropping Elephant, employed a new variant of the bad news backdoor dubbed Ragnatella, or spiderweb in Italian, in a recent campaign. However, the group made the headlines after infecting its infrastructure with a rat, allowing researchers to analyze its operations. The app group has been active since at least 2015. Previous operations targeted military and political individuals across the world. It shows a specific interest in organizations in Pakistan. At the end of 2021, Malwarebytes researchers observed the app group targeting faculty members whose research focuses on molecular medicine and biological science. In a recent campaign, the Patchwork Group carried out a spear phishing campaign using weaponized RTF files to drop a variant of the bad news Ragnatella remote administrator Trojan, the malicious RTF files impersonating Pakistani authorities, and exploit a vulnerability in Microsoft Equation Editor to deliver it and execute the final payload. Malwarebytes researchers reported that that payload is stored within the RTF document as an OLE object. Experts from Checkpoint Research uncovered a new zLoader malware campaign in early November 2021. The malware campaign is still active, and threat actors have already stolen data and credentials of more than 2,000 victims across 111 countries as of the 2nd of January 2022. zLoader is a banking malware that has been active at least since 2016. It borrows from functions from the notorious Zeus 2.0.89 banking Trojan and was used to spread Zeus-like banking Trojans. The attack chain leverages legitimate remote management software to gain initial access to the target system. The infection chain starts with the installation of Atera software on the victim's machine. Atera is a legitimate enterprise remote monitoring and management software that can install an agent and assign the endpoint to a specific account using a unique .msi file that includes the owner's email address. Attackers created this installer using a temporary email address, ntic.corp@mail2.plus. Like previous zLoader campaigns, the file poses as a Java installation. Then the malware exploits Microsoft's digital signature verification method to inject this payload into a signed system DLL in an attempt to evade detection. The threat actors exploit a vulnerability tracked to CVE 2013-3900 that was discovered and fixed in 2013, but in 2014, Microsoft revised the fix. During the investigation, the experts found an open directory hosted at teamworks455.com that was holding some of the files that are downloaded through the campaign. Or in the campaign. The malware operators are changing the files every few days. The analysis of the file entries allowed to retrieve the list of victims that were infected with zLoader and their country of origin. Most of the infected systems are in the USA, Canada, Australia, India, and Indonesia. Experts attribute this campaign to Molesmoke cybercrimes group due to the similarities with the past attacks. We now move on to other security news. UNICC, one of the biggest underground carding marketplaces, announced it is shutting down. The site was launched in 2013, and according to the Elliptic threat intel, about $315 million across Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ether, and Dash, and purchases were made through the platform. UniCC reached a 30% market share after the takedown of the popular carding platform Joker Stash in January. The news of the shutdown was announced by the UniCC administrators on underground carding sites in both English and Russia. They are giving 10 days to their members to spend their balances. According to Elliptic Threat Intel team, after the shutdown of the UniCC marketplace, other carding platforms will attempt to fill the gap in a market that overall surpasses more than $1.4 billion in sales with Bitcoin alone. On the other side, the operators behind the UniCC will be seeking to cash out their millionaire profits. But in recent months, Elliptic pointed out that other underground marketplaces appear to be hanging up the towel. The White House Market announced it was shutting down in October, and by November, Canazon went dark in December. It was Torres' turn. By early January, Monopoly Market was unexpectedly inaccessible, so on and so forth. The Russian Federal Security Service, or FSB, announced to have shut down the Revil ransomware gang, the group that's behind a long string of attacks against large organizations like Kaseya and JBS USA. The FSB claims to have identified all members of the Revil gang and monitored their operations. The police operation was conducted by Russian authorities following a request by the United States that shared info about members of the gang. The Russian police arrested 14 alleged members of the ransomware gang and raided 25 addresses, seizing computer equipment and cryptocurrency wallets. The raids took place in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Leningrad, and Lipetsk regions. Russian authorities also reported to have seized 20 luxury cars along with cryptocurrency and fiat money, more than 426 million rubles, or about $5.5 million, 600,000 US dollars, 500,000 euros, approximately 570,000 US dollars. Rebel members are also accused to have stolen money from the bank accounts of foreign citizens. The Russian Federal Security Services announced to have dismantled the Revil ransomware operation and arrested 14 alleged members of the gang, the group that is behind the long string of attacks, again, Kaseya and JBS. The attack against Colonial Pipeline was carried out by a ransomware gang known as DarkSide, but according to senior officials, one of the members of the now-defunct group, Revil, or DarkSide, was also involved in Revil operations. The official did not name the man. He also remarked that the arrests were the result of an effort requested by the U.S. government to the Russian one during last year's meeting between President Joe Biden and Russian peer Vladimir Putin. So, we see that Colonial Pipeline can be linked through DarkSide to our evil as well. Ukrainian police arrested members of ransomware affiliate groups that is responsible for attacking at least 50 companies in the US and Europe. The operation was conducted by the SBU Cyber Department together with the Cyber Police Department and National Police Investigators with the support of the competent authorities in the United States and Great Britain. The gang was targeting organizations via spam campaigns to spread ransomware. However, the police did not disclose the malware family used by the group in its attacks. The group was also carrying out distributed denial-of-service attacks to paralyze the networks of the victims and force them to pay the ransom. The total losses resulting from the attacks are more than $1 million US. The law enforcement arrested the leader of the group, a 36-year-old man that lives in Kiev, along with his wife and 3 other acquaintances. The gang was also providing VPN-like services used by other cybercriminal organizations to carry out malicious activities used to deliver malware to the target organization. The services were popular among members of international hacker groups who regularly hacked the systems of government and commercial institutions to collect confidential information, spread extortion viruses that encrypt information available on the PC and demand a ransom from the user for the key, and carried out DDoS attacks to paralyze systems. To cash out the funds received as ransomware payments, the cybercrime group carried out complex financial transactions using online payment services that are banned in Ukraine. They used an extensive network of fictitious identities. Police carried out searches at the place of actual residence and stay of the suspects. They seized cars, mobile phones, computer equipment, and other material evidence of illegal activity. The suspects faced multiple criminal charges, including money laundering, unauthorized access to computers and networks, and the creation, use, distribution, and sale of malware and hacking tools. The U.S. National Counterintelligence and Security Center, or NCSC, and the Department of State have published joint guidance that provides best practices on defending against attacks carried out by threat actors using commercial surveillance tools. In the last years, we have reported several cases of companies selling commercial surveillance tools to governments and other entities that have used them for malicious purposes. Surveillance tools can be used to record audio, including phone calls, track the phone's location, and access and retrieve all content on a phone, like text messages, files, chats, commercial messaging app content, contacts, and browser history. These tools were used in attacks aimed at journalists, dissidents, and other persons around the world. Below is the list of cybersecurity practices recommended by the NCSC and the U.S. State Department to mitigate the risk of exposure to attacks using these tools. Regularly update device operating systems and mobile applications. Be suspicious of content from unfamiliar senders, especially those which contain links or attachments. Don't click on suspicious links or suspicious emails and attachments. Check URLs before clicking links or go to websites directly. Regularly restart mobile devices, which may help damage or remove malware implants. Encrypt and password protect your device. Maintain physical contact of your device when possible. Use trusted virtual private networks. Disable geolocation options and cover camera on devices. While these steps mitigate risks, they don't eliminate them. It's always safest to behave as if the device is compromised, so be mindful of sensitive content. In November, the Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security, or BIS, sanctioned 4 companies for the development of spyware or the sale of hacking tools used by nation-state actors. With that, I say thanks for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe if you haven't already, and smash the bell if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.